طعم الدنيا اتغير فرحة قلبي بتكبر.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Our discussion for today pertains the verse in the Quran in Surah Rum. This is Quran chapter 30 verses 22. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ واختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم إن في ذلك لآيات للعالمين. Allah says, and among his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth and the diversity in terms of your languages and your colors. Verily, these are among the signs for those who have knowledge. When we look at this particular verse, we're going to discuss this verse in detail. And I would like to start by discussing what is diversity. When you look at the behavioral sciences, diversity can be of two types. We have the surface level diversity and we have the deep level diversity. Surface level diversity are differences. For instance, someone who has a light skin color or someone who is dark, or in terms of height, someone is very tall, someone is short. In terms of weight, someone is stout, someone is fat, another person is slim. And in terms of disability, you have a person with one eye or a person with one leg or amputated arm. These are surface level diversities, what we can readily see. Now, deep level diversity is a bit different. And deep level diversity is basically the way we think, in other words, cognitive, and also the way we feel, which we call affect or the emotions. And when you look at the affect, the emotions, and you look at the cognitive, these two, we are also able to discriminate between them. For the cognitive is measured based on what we call the intelligent quotient, or what we call IQ. And how do we measure the emotion? The emotion is measured using something we call EQ, the emotional quotient. Now, when you look at these two critically, the brain or the cognitive aspects and the heart, which is the emotional aspects, make people behave differently. How someone thinks and how a person feels is different from a person A to a person B. And these differences are not seen. And this is where the issues start. Now look at people who discriminate, people who are jealous, or people who have what we call Hasad, jealousy or envy. These are functions of the heart. Majority of people who discriminate, who have envy towards others for whatever these people may be having, majority of them have a particular issue. Envy, hatred, anger plays a great amount of distress on the heart. And as we know, according to the heart experts, or what we call the cardiologists make us understand Takotsubo syndrome. You put so much stress on the heart, and when you put so much stress on the heart, what happens is that it forces the veins to constrict. When the veins going towards the heart constricts, the blood volume that supposed to go to the heart to be pumped to all the body diminishes, becomes very little. And by so doing, the heart weakens and the pressure increases. And when this pressure increases, then the heart will be forced to form a form of Takotsubo. Takotsubo is actually a Japanese word for something like a bottle, right? That is thin at the top, but suddenly is bulged towards the end. And when that happens, it's going to cause excessive amount of damage to other parts, other organs in the body. And what happens during broken-hearted. When we say someone is broken-hearted, based on this expert, they said that is actually a real broken heart. You have so much jealousy within yourself, to the extent that you just cannot function. You see something of your own brother, you grieve upon it, and then think so much upon it and become so excessively jealous. What happens is that it puts so much stress on your heart. When a person has a lot of jealousy or envy in his body, or hasad, other evils, when you commit it, you get the punishment later. But for hasad, when you commit it, it comes along with its own punishment. Some scholars even say the punishment comes first before you do it. Because any hasad, any person who is envious of one or of another person, what happens is you place so much stress on yourself with stories that are not true. Because these stories are not true, and you are the only storyteller telling yourself those stories, you put those stories to make it right. So what happens is you are creating a false issues. Any person who is doing hasad, this is what you do to your own heart. You are breaking your own system down. And why do you have to do that in the first place? Only because of something that Allah has given someone. Why do you have to do that? You're doing that because in the first place you are not actually sinning against that person you are doing hasad against, but you are sinning against Allah, the creator, because it is the creator who gave him whatever he has, be it knowledge, be it a new car, be it a new house, be it a new job or promotion, and you are just sitting there and being jealous of it. And then you start to create a whole lot of stories and start to increase your own pressure. And based on this, we normally say people who are jealous, most of the time they die very young, because they tend to kill themselves by influencing and disturbing their own selves. When you look at the brain and the heart, when you are so discriminatory, when you are tribalistic, when you are envious, all these things put stress and pressure on the heart. And when they put stress and the pressure on their heart, you end up killing yourself softly. So what is then the remedy? The remedy is whenever we feel a hasad or we feel something, because hasad or envy is something that is within every person. Everybody, you have it within you. There are times you feel a bit disturbed when you see something of someone that you will wish to have it by yourself. That's good. You will wish to have it. You pray for the person. Ya Allah, whatever you have given so and so, bless it, and me too, give me something that is a blessing for me. That's good. When you see something like that, when you want to suppress your hasad, just say Masha Allah la quwwata illa billah. No one has the power to give it to him except what Allah wills. What Allah wills is what he has, and there is no strength and there is no might except with Allah. Now when you say this, it suppresses your own envy within yourself, and it helps to give you some kind of love or acceptance on the side of Allah, and Allah will bless you with something that is better for you in your life. But when you see this and you start to be angry, you start to be very sad, you start to be worried, you start to ask questions, why should you have this, you have that? Basically you are just killing yourself. People who are envious, they end up with heart attack. You can do your search. Most people who are envious of people or whatever they have, they end up with heart attacks, they end up with having serious issues in their lives, because you are fighting with your own self. You are the own architect of your own parish, no one else except yourself. So looking at this particular diversity, all right, with the deep level and the surface level, we use the deep level to make sense of the surface level. And the deep level, like I said, is based on what you think and how you feel from the heart. And with the surface level, basically, is what you see. So in a nutshell, all issues of envy, issues of jealousy, envy, discrimination, tribalism are all matters that goes along to have to kill or to kill the person who is doing it softly. It goes along with to affect you yourself. If you see something that someone has, pray for the person and pray that Allah gives you similar. And that is something that can help you yourself develop, and it's something that will give you some acceptance, a level of acceptance on the side of your Lord. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless whatever it is that you have. The second aspect of something I will want to say, I will just mention it in a brief. Hopefully, we're going to continue with it in some other time. The second aspect of something that I will want to say is that when you look at the verse itself, the verse actually distinctively put it into two. Allah says, وَاخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ, which is your languages. And languages is not a function of something that you see, it's something that is deep level. And deep level of the languages comes from the cognitive and comes also from the heart, because every language has got its own culture. English speaking has got its own culture. English language got its own culture. Hausa got its own its own culture. So it's a function of the heart and a function of the brain. And al-wanikum here comes to be the surface level of the diversity. So this particular verse, subhanallah, has been revealed in the Quran more than 1,400 years ago. Only recently, a research into the deep level and surface level of diversities is able to help us to understand that when someone is basically discriminating, you are not discriminating for anyone's good or perish. No, you are doing it against your own self. But the more you discriminate, the more it leads you to the grave. The more you do hasad, the more it leads you to the grave. However, the opposite is very clear. When you have a peaceful heart, open-minded person, you see something good of someone, you pray for the person. What happens? You end up having peaceful living because you don't put so much intense pressure on your heart. And a believer, whenever something disturbs him, what does he do? He go back to the dhikrullah. Allah says in the Quran, "Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub." Verily, is only with the remembrance of Allah, only in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. So when you remember Allah in everything that you do, and you see something of someone, you're not hasad, you're not envious, because basically before Allah gives someone something, you never know what Allah has taken away from that person before He gives him what He has, that you have to be jealous. Allah gives something to someone by taking something from him that you never know. People who have knowledge, who are very knowledgeable, or who have a particular wisdom, they have done something that Allah used to take out from them to give you something. Someone who is knowledgeable, you never know the sleepless nights, you never know the kind of disappointment, you never know the kind of worry they have to go in day and night, go to the classrooms. When you are sleeping, they wake up at night studying very hard, doing all sort of things to lose something so that later Allah gives them the knowledge, which you are envious of it. So why being envious of it is you have to rather go and now look for your own way of developing yourself. When you see someone doing business and being successful, you never know what Allah has taken from the person. People have to lose their families, they lose their relationships, they have divorces over divorces just because they want to put some effort to develop themselves. And they have done that, and the one that they have developed and they have become someone, you only see the success. In every human being, there is something we call the overt and the covert, right? We only see the success. What is beneath, what is underground, with all the worries, all the disappointments, all the headaches, all the sicknesses the person has to go through, those ones are not seen because that's not what people are interested in. We're only interested in seeing the success. So before you are envious to someone, you have to be very careful, because you never know what God has taken away from the person and replaced with whatever he is having now for you to see and be envious of it. So this is a very simple message we have to understand. It's a practical thing in life. The more envy you are, the more you are closer to the grave. The more hasad you are towards others, the more you are getting closer to the grave. And it is mentioned not only in the scientific text, but even in the Quran, we are warned in a hadith about that, to the extent that there is a whole surah in the Quran. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ, Surah Al-Nas. Allah says in the surah that we should seek refuge from the envious when he envies. Brothers and sisters, I think this will bring us to the end of this particular session. Inshallah, we're going to continue with another discussion on this particular same verse. Right? We're going to extend the discussion to understand what are some of the things that when people do, apart from this envy, that they put so much pressure on their hearts and thereby breaking their hearts by themselves and killing themselves slowly. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
رمضان ده رحمة من ربنا نعمة